The Skeleton Cupboard by Tanya Byron, read by Imogen Church, with the introduction read by Tanya Byron.
Introduction. My grandmother's frontal lobes. Frontal lobe, noun. Plural, frontal lobes. 1. Each of the paired lobes of the brain lying immediately behind the forehead, including areas concerned with behavior, learning, personality, and voluntary movement. 2. A region of the brain that influences higher mental functions, often associated with intelligence, such as the ability to foresee the consequences of actions, planning, comprehension, and mood. I first became fascinated by the frontal lobes of the human brain when I saw my grandmother's sprayed across the skirting board of her dark and cluttered house. I was 15. A young woman, 8 months pregnant, I discovered much later, and a heroin addict, had battered her about the head with an iron fire poker. She was an ex-tenant of my grandmother's. This woman knew that her former landlady, a German Jewish refugee recently converted to Christianity, had treasures and cash galore stashed among the chaos of her large house, the top 2 floors of which she rented out. A few blows to the head, a quick rifle through purses and drawers, and the woman was off, cash in her pocket to pay off her dealer and secure her next hit. My grandmother lay on the carpet of her front room, bleeding from a large head wound. I don't know whether she was conscious or not. I do know exactly how she died. By slowly asphyxiating, choking to death on her own blood. Asphyxiation. That was the problem, of course. If only she'd died instantly from the head trauma, the crime would have been treated as murder. If only she hadn't been a stubborn, willful woman, a woman who had fled Nazi Germany, pregnant with my father, a woman who had lost many of her family in concentration camps, a woman who never took anything lying down, except when she was beaten with an iron fire poker. There she lay, refusing to die, until she choked on her blood. The woman who had beaten her was sentenced to only 3 years for manslaughter with diminished responsibility. She had her baby in prison, and was out within 18 months. Okay, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure that my grandmother's brains were on the skirting board when I went into her house that day at the age of 15. Is that a direct memory or something I told myself later on? In fact, I'm not sure I remember much of that day at all, except 2 things: a massive blood stain on the carpet, and my father making a noise like an animal caught in a trap. In that moment, I became the rational coper. My darling father howled, but I just shut down and began to try and understand how and why. Had she died in pain? Did she know she was dying before she died? What had compelled her murderer to smash her head in? Had the woman planned it? Did she want to kill my grandmother or merely maim her so she could plunder? All these questions about the shit end of life at a time when I should have been unthinkingly hedonistic. At 15 years old, my frontal lobes were in a post-pubertal stage of reorganisation, which meant I should have been taking my own risks and thinking bugger all about the consequences. But on that March morning, it was only and all about frontal lobes. My grandmother's on the skirting board, perhaps, her murderers, clearly under-functioning, and mine, clicking into a precocious place of calm rationality that I now believe began my journey into the profession of a mental health practitioner. This book tells the story of my clinical training. It takes place over the course of 3 years from 1989 to 1992, when I was in my early 20s, during which I underwent a series of placements in different mental health settings and worked with several distinct kinds of patient: troubled children, families in crisis, men and women dealing with the encroaching effects of dementia, those struggling with drug dependency, eating disorders, sexual dysfunction and terminal illness, and, in one case, a sociopath. After completing my Bachelor of Science in Psychology at the University of York in the north of England, I had moved back to live in a flat in London, the city in which I grew up.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?